conversations with different people, talking about, talking about something we feel particularly passionate about at a season or in the season. And probably because we're getting ready for Fashion Week, we're overthinking and rethinking textiles, textile production, where do they come from? And of course, in the last like 3-4 months, we've been privy to the fact that quite a lot of people have had problems with sourcing textiles locally. And it's been a major problem. Especially when the lockdown was in full, if do anything. And of course, as well, who are trying to produce either, we realized that, can you hear me? My internet is, was that?
Yeah, it froze for a moment.
Oh gosh, sorry, I overthink this. So we realized that there's really not that much that we produce locally. A lot, majority, especially in volume, comes from outside trees. Tonight we also have, okay, I'm not going to spill the beans, so I'm going to let each person introduce themselves and tell us what you do. I'm looking at Yemi, so maybe we should start with you, looking at the grid, and then Adebusola is next.
Thank you for having me. It's really nice to be able to join this conversation because I'm based in London and I, in a way, consider myself to be an outsider with regards to the fashion industry, but my work is deeply underpinned by textile design and a keen interest to work with people from the fashion industry, but also across different arts disciplines. So I tend to collaborate with people who might consider themselves to be artists and designers. So I consider my work to kind of sit somewhere in between. And also finding opportunities to do research into materials. So it might be from a very formal scientific point of view, but often it can be very playful and more intuitive, just to try and get an understanding of how people relate to materials and then how that can be used to design products or design clothing or design even materials that might sit between interior design and fashion. So I tend not to, I find it hard to stick within one label because I think there's opportunities for us to learn from different areas of art and design. And maybe later on we'll talk a little bit about some of the ideas and plans for the future. Because one of my partners, Wacy, who's joined us today, we're part of a female collective and we're trying to explore some of these ideas through our work. Oh, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry, Busola.
Hello, everyone. My name is Adebusola. I'm definitely glad that we're having this conversation. I am a surface pattern designer. I do designing print brands and also printing them onto fabric. And yes, that's my intro.
Thank you. Tunde.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tunde Owolabi. I consider myself being an artist. Being an artist enables me to delve into any form of creativity, being able to conceive an idea and find possibilities of how I can bring the idea to life. Like Omoyemi said, one of my paintings is sitting in a house. So I started from there studying graphic design and photography, but recently I've found myself dipping my hands into fashion, and that's because I've been designing textile, I've been designing Ashoke, and looking at the possibilities of using Ashoke for other products as opposed to wearing them as Ashwebi. And I've been at this journey for 5 years now. So that's me in a nutshell.
Thank you, Tunde. Emmy, you're next. Can you tell us about you?
Hi, everyone. My name is Okoro Emmanuel, and I'm the creative director for Emmy Kasbit. You know, at Emmy Kasbit, we're a sustainable fashion brand, and as a designer, my practice relies on empowerment, community uplifting, and upcycling, while also exploring topics around cultural diversity. You know, I like to see myself as a storyteller, where we use the traditional textile called akwete from Eastern Nigeria, and I work closely with women from Eastern Nigeria, which is the Akwete village. The textile is named after the village where it's being done. So we fuse this with modern materials to create outfits for the new African man and woman.
Thank you. Banke.
Hi, everyone. I am really excited to be here and I'm excited to be part of this conversation. So I am Banke and I'm the creative director of Banke Kuku. Banke Kuku is a lifestyle brand and we create fashion and lifestyle pieces. I have been in the industry for 13 years now. I started off as a textiles designer, specializing in digital print and some woven print here and there. I have collaborated with brands and I have my own brand as well.
Thank you. Adejoke.
Good evening, everyone. I'm very happy to be a part of this conversation. My name is Adejoke Lasisi, and well, I call myself a textile artist. I'm into Ashoke weaving. I was born into Ashoke weaving, and we were able to come up with some innovation in such a way that we were able to make some textiles, some fabrics that could be used not just for Ashwebi, but for other purposes like for interiors. Then recently we came up with using the weaving skills to create more impact in the community, and we started weaving some pure water sachets, used jeans, different stuff like that. And that idea made us got an award, MSME of the Year, yesterday from the federal government of Nigeria. So that's what we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Adejoke.
Yes.
Wacy, did I pronounce your name well? Wacy?
Wacy is right. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Sorry for the call dropping earlier. So my name is Wacy Zacarias, and I am the co-founder of Karingana Textile. And we call ourselves Textile Storytellers, based in Mozambique, in Maputo. And so our whole brand is based on the idea that African textiles have always been one of the vehicles that we tell stories. And when they started being outside of Africa, mainly when we talk about China and India, some of those stories got lost. So the idea is that we bring that into the design of our prints, but beyond doing prints, we do we use natural resources. So we weave with banana leaf, we use other materials and waste, and we're really interested in investigating innovation within the African textile market, but also just understanding what new materials can come about in homewear.
Thank you very much. That was interesting. So I think we should start from the beginning. I mean, sort of look at the evolution of textiles in Nigeria, but without belaboring it. And what do you think has changed? I mean, with contemporary fashion today, with modern fashion, how do we think we've been able to incorporate like either elements of our heritage into and to to enhance competitiveness for African design, either through my internet, I think is a bit off. So let me know if you stop, if you can't hear me. So how do we think that we've been able to, either innovate using skills that's been passed down from generation to generation, or technology? And I think this room has quite a few people who work with different medium and different materials to be able to achieve this goal. So who wants to go first?
I'll go first. So I think, so your question was how have traditional skills been passed down, and what are modern day designers using with skills from the past?
Yes, so how have we incorporated elements, or maybe you with your work, or in general, like how does it translate?
I'd say, I mean, with the digital age, I think a lot of textiles designers have now gone into digital printing, just because we're able to, it's faster, and you're able to reduce the amount of mistakes that maybe handmade fabrics that we might face with handmade fabrics, like woven fabrics and adire and things like that. That's not to say that these fabrics are not amazing, they really are. But I think just to be able to meet quality standards and also meet demand, we've had to go digital. And in terms with digital, we also have a wider range of colors. And it's actually much cheaper than, imagine with digital print, you can literally have thousands of colors, but with maybe hand dyeing, you can only have like 2 or 3 or 4. So in terms of design, it has really been able to give us wider range. But I think a lot of textiles designers based in Nigeria, and from what everybody has said in the group, I think we're all inspired by traditional African textiles, not even just the design, we're also just inspired by Africa. So I think modern day designers are really, I think we're really passionate to tell an African story, a positive African story with what we do.
Thank you very much. So with designers that probably do maybe like slightly, maybe like a little bit of the opposite of what Banke is talking about, how are you guys able to adapt? Bearing in mind that it's going to be a slower process.
Okay. Tunde, you go.
Okay. For me, first of all, I think I stumbled upon Ashoke, not because I wanted to work with Ashoke, but the reason I said I stumbled upon Ashoke was because I was looking for subjects to paint for an art exhibition. And in my research, Ashoke came up a lot. And then I thought, there must be something special about the fabric. And that led me into doing a research on Ashoke and actually having my exhibition on Ashoke. But during that journey, I kind of learned a lot in terms of how the fabric is produced. But then I started to see gaps in how things were done and the limitation in the kind of designs that we could create and how we could tell our stories with Ashoke. One of the gaps is because of the commercialization of the fabric for Ashwebi, the level of creativity for me kind of dropped, because these guys just wanted to create fast, quick, linear designs and, just get them out for whoever's wedding it is. So it was just more like stripes and colors and all. But from the research, some of the old people that I met showed me some olden days fabric that it had like really interesting, intricate patterns created on them. Some even went as far as incorporating some dyeing process and all. So for me, I thought this is something that we need to find a way to bring it back, and also for us to tell our story, to the world, rather than letting it just, lose it in in the modern day way of doing things. So part of what I also try to do is see how, because for young people, sometimes when I'm talking to people, they're like, oh, Ashoke, it's too heavy, I can't wear it. But the question I ask is, if you can wear denim, then why can't you wear Ashoke? Because in terms of the texture, the thickness of it, denim sometimes is heavier than Ashoke is. And for me, Ashoke, I think it's more breathable than even denim. So why don't we find ways of weaving this Ashoke if you think it's really heavy and can be worn? I didn't start using Ashoke for garments. I'm not a fashion designer. I use them for shoes and other accessories. But for garments, I thought, why can't we weave Ashoke in a way that they're really light? Maybe we need to reduce the yarn or, whatever it is. How can we, because I've seen some old ones done that way that, you feel the texture and you can see how light they are. So those are the kind of things that over time I've tried to get the weavers to try to do. And sometimes I hear people say things like, how can we create some sort of a machine that can make the production faster? I hear that, but as much as we want to find the solutions, I'm also thinking about, yes, we're thinking about the sustainability of it, but I'm also thinking, are we taking away from the culture of how the fabric is being produced? So those are the things those are the, I don't know if to call them challenges, but those are part of the journeys that I have been on, and still trying to look for solutions and how we can sustain these guys. Right now, a lot of them are not doing anything aside when we give them our own designs to do, practically because COVID-19 is here, nobody's getting married, nobody's having any parties. So they're not really doing anything,
That is so true. Wow.
Yeah, so right now, the only way we're sustaining them is because of what we do. So I feel like we need more of such, so that these guys can still have some sort of livelihood. Otherwise, if this kind of pandemic should happen, repeatedly, then these guys are dead. They won't have anything to sustain their lives on. So yeah, that's where we are now. Trying to see other ways of sustainability and how we can make the process easier and better.
Okay. Thank you. And,
okay, yeah, I can go now.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Adding to what Banke said when she was talking about the textiles being a bit slow and you can't really get much colors from it and everything. Coming from Akwete where we do the weaving, find out that there are a lot of colors because we work with yarns, even though you can't necessarily like trace where the yarns are being made of. All we know that we go to the market and you find like any color, because like me, when I'm designing for a season, I look at the Pantone colors of the season, I kind of print them out, design everything digitally. And then I go look for the yarns that match like the exact colors and then take it to the artisan before we start like the weaving process. So with Akete, I think it can come in any color. You even if you decide to do a digital printing in whatsoever color that you desire, I feel like you can get it in the textile as well. Yes, it's slow fashion. It might take like a slow process before you get it. But the thing is that I feel like good things take time because you can't just it's handmade. It's our thing as Africans, and I feel like the more time it takes, the more that means it's luxury. Luxury takes time, so it's not something you just get in 2 days, 3 days. And I feel like with Aquatic too, depending on the motif we are creating on it, some take at least 4 days to come out. So, but it depends on the design we are incorporating on like for the season. So, like a little background story. Before, I wasn't doing Aquatic before. So I was just a regular designer. But when I enrolled for the Lagos Fashion Week thing, I was a finalist for the Fashion Focus Fund. So I wanted to do something that would, keep me ahead of the other competitors. So I went on, I went researching. I found out. I mean, I knew Akwete, I knew Ashoke, I knew Ajire, but I've seen a lot of that. So I wanted something different. So and then I could relate with Akwete because I found out that it was done in Eastern Nigeria. That's where I'm from. So I went out, I looked for, I went out, I looked for these women. I mean, on getting there, you won't believe that, most of them had packed up their looms. And I keep telling this story that, oh, why? And they said, oh, no one was coming to look for it. So some of them, and then when I narrated my story that, oh, I wanted to start this, most of them doubted, like, are you sure you want to do this? And then the other thing is that textile isn't cheap. Most people see it as, oh, it's handmade. It's not cheap. Even though digital printing might be a bit higher than it, but it's still not cheap. So you find out that this thing, maybe there was no one creating the awareness for them at then, but with what we've done, I feel like a lot of people have gotten to know more about this than maybe 4 years ago when we were not doing it, or 6 years ago before we started it. So I feel like with us at Emmy, one of our mission is to actually take this craft from Africa, this part of Africa, to other parts of Africa and the world at large. So thereby you're creating more job opportunities for these women. I understand that COVID happened. Even one of them spoke to me the other day. She was like, oh, she was speaking in my dialect. She was like, oh, by now you should have come because this is like spring, summer preparation time. And then I'm like, oh yeah, but I've also found a way to design it from here, send it across, and hopefully everything will, come out the way it's supposed to be. COVID happened and there's nothing we can do about it, but it doesn't mean that the work will stop. You just have to find a way to, have things, keep things moving.
I'm curious to find out what do you think has changed with how the weavers were probably weaving Akwete then and now? Has anything changed? Is the process still the same? Like the same looms, the same process, or how has it evolved? Has there been any?
Personally, I think it's still done with the loom because there's no technology involved whatsoever, and I don't think I'm even looking for a way to bring in technology because that means I'm taking the sustainability aspect out. I just have to find a way to keep them busy, and then again, they had their designs already, but with me, because of where I'm coming from and being a designer, I kind of like to design my own textiles. It goes through the graphic designing on the computer. I get the blueprint and I take it to them. So I feel like by so doing, I'm even letting them know that this can be done. Sometimes when I bring a design, they tell me, "Oh, are you sure we can do this?" But you find out that by the time they start, maybe we get 1 or 2 samples out, and I tweak a bit of things on them. It comes out the way it's supposed to be. So I feel like the way they maybe I've even helped them to get better at their craft. So that's one of the things I know has changed for them.
I jump in there.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think we pretty much have the same because it's about the same process. The only difference is Ashoke is mostly woven by men and Akwete is mostly woven by women.
Yeah, women.
But from what you're saying, it's like you're just saying it's like we've been on the same journey because the same way you have to go through designing the patterns, then the guys that I work with, initially they don't even want to think about creating patterns or doing anything intricate. They just want to create the regular straight lines and all. But for me, I thought if I have to create a brand, I have to create some sort of an identity. I have to make whatever I'm producing, I have to create something different from what every other person is used to. It was a bit of a struggle with them, not because they can't do it, but a lot of them feel like it takes time to produce these patterns and create this kind of Ashoke, as opposed to the simpler ones that they can churn out faster. So yeah, I understand your perspective of it, and I think somehow it's helped because for my weavers as well, they've seen more possibilities as to what they can do that they even never thought about, and now, I get to see them talk about how we can make things better. But yeah, like you said, bringing in technology, I don't know if at some point
I don't know.
we may have to bring.
Okay, can I say something about that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Adejoke Lasisi. I'm excited about what Mr. Tunde has been saying and Mr. Emmanuel as well. Well, I'm an Ashoke weaver. We have a weaving school where we train people how to weave Ashoke. And one thing that we did was, why I went into Ashoke weaving was the fact that I realized that our cultural heritage has started going into extinction. People no longer like using Ashoke. You know, they talk about that, okay, it's heavy, because we had to carry out a survey in order to understand why they are no longer interested in Ashoke. So I asked them, why are you not using Ashoke again? Majority of us said, okay, it's heavy, it's not attractive. So we were able to come up with an innovative way of making it attractive at the same time lighter. But what do? We make sure that, because most of all this thread, like what I'm putting on now, this is hand woven. I made this. See, like most of all this thread that we buy from China, I realized that they are not eco-friendly, unlike the ones that is produced in Nigeria. Like the one Mr. Tunde talked about that is being dyed, you know, some of them like that, because by the time you do a research on them, you realize that, okay, some of all these thread that they are already in colors, they are not really good for the skin, unlike the one that is being produced in Nigeria. But the one that is being produced in Nigeria only comes in one color, not in different colors. So it makes it difficult, like what Madam Banke said about, you know, who talked about the different colors. No, is it
Banke.
Wasilia? Yes. That she talked about, you know, the digital printing now and everything. One thing that I believe is that we asked them, we realized that most of all these people need Ashoke with a feel of handmade, like something that is handcrafted. At the same time, we want our home products. We want to produce in a large quantity, and they want it. So we now have to come to a right balance in such a way that we will be able to achieve our vision. At the same time, our customers too will get what they want. So what we did was that all the other processes, we talked to an engineer. They were able to fabricate some machines for us to as an automated, so that every other process is going to be automated, while the weaving alone is going to be done with hand. So it makes it much easier and faster, because other processes doesn't really take much time now. But at the end of the product, like weaving it is going to be handmade. So that's, we were able to like get we were able to achieve our own vision in making sure that, okay, our work is now faster in producing much. At the same time, the customers to get what they want. So that's how we've been able to like incorporate like technology into what we do. At the same time, still get the feel of the handmade. That's what we did.
That's interesting. Adebusola, do you want to talk about that? I mean, how long have you done this for?
2017, November 11th, November 12th. Yeah. So it's going to be 3 years soon. I mean, I agree with what Banke was saying. I feel like a lot of what we do now, even with digital printing, with Ashoke, Adire, everything is still like everything is still really inspired by old techniques. I mean, with what Tunde said, I saw this Adire fabric my grandma had. She's had it for years. Like, it was really detailed. Compared to what we have now, it was really detailed. I feel the issue now is people just doing it for money. Cheapest way out, let's just do it and just get paid. I mean, you can't blame them because of the economy and how everything is going on. But even with digital printing and then designing print, which is my main focus, most people still want things that still connect them back to like this African culture. They want like print. I mean, they also want the modern element and all of that, but like they still want things that can be traced back to Africa or whatever culture, whatever part of Africa they're from. And even with Ashoke, I love how it's still inspired by old techniques, but still, I love how Emmy does his textiles. there's still this little hint of modern, and then it's still like greatly inspired by like old techniques and all of that. Yes.
I think it's really important for the industry to have a balance of both. So I think it's really important to
Very
preserve,
important.
to preserve what the traditional techniques. I think it's really important to protect those cottage industries, those little cottage like weaving factories and things. It's really important to, because that's really what holds like it's history. It's what holds the country together. But I think that I don't think there's a problem with bringing in something that's modern as well, because it's important for us as as a design, what do I call it, as an industry, to be able to evolve. Because if you don't evolve, then you can't really grow.
I mean, I feel like if we're going to move our industry forward and like just be on this like global scale, then we must still like maintain our personality, maintain our story, our culture, and everything. Yes, definitely.
I even think, with regards to print, digital printing and the work that you do, that is so important. Because for years, there's this perception that Ankara is, of course, African, and we all know where it's from. And in a way, it's not the same, but really Ankara is print, right? Either print on cotton. I know the Dutch call theirs real Dutch wax, and all of that process. But sometimes it's good to be able to see people who can actually choose what they want. It's so rich. It's different. The fact that you can be a part of that process in itself is something that's truly special. And unlike before, that maybe a lot of people in the industry pretty much have to rely on what they buy or what they bought or buy from the open market. And with Busola as well, I've been able to see some young designers and see their work evolve, because now they have someone they can sit with, that can sort of interpret what they have at the back of their minds and help you help them bring it to life, and then it helps change their story, change their collection. It's something that's really quite interesting to see that wasn't always there, bearing in mind that most factories here probably don't cater to young designers and shorter runs, so you can't really go to them because they'll probably tell you they can only do minimum of. I spoke to someone last week and they're like, oh, do I want to order 150 kg? And what were we doing? Someone, I think my daughter wants to, do a collection for charity or something, and she, and they're like 150 kg for them to be able to roll out the print, roll out the fabric for her. That's a lot. That's a lot of summer dresses. So you can't help but think or wonder how younger designers are able to cope with that. But if you have someone like yourself who's able to make it a bit more specialized, then why not? So that's some sort of change and the way things are evolving daily, that people are able to customize their fabric. And when you're able to customize your fabric, so the choice of textiles you use, you're able to have conversations confidently with buyers. If you're a wholesale kind of brand, because you know that you can simply reprint, as opposed to going to Tedro show or going back to Balogun or wherever you bought the fabric and they tell you that they've run out. Or you don't have to stockpile fabrics, spend all your money and stockpile fabrics because you think buyers are going to come and you don't want to lose the print of that fabric. And then they don't end up buying and you're stuck with, rolls and rolls of fabric, which costs a lot of money for young designers. So I think it's important that, people can choose and have that sort of experience. And Yemi, I'm quite keen to hear from you in terms of what you think and your role as an insider outsider, because you're not really based here. So what do you think in terms of looking at the evolution thus far, how fashion here has evolved, and how, especially when it comes to textiles, materials, how you think, things have evolved generally?
I feel like my knowledge of the mechanics of the industry is not very solid, but I can talk more about my connection to the materials, or like my perception of the materials. So for me, when I think about fashion textiles, like the way like you use or interact with those materials are very important. So even if you're talking about a garment, you know, what the garment is made out of, where it's come from, you know, the journey that that garment took, the materials the journey that the materials took are also really important. So for me, based in the UK, I've always lived in the UK. I feel almost no emotional connection to materials that I know are produced en masse, you know, that have no identity. But in terms of me trying to find some sense of belonging, that's where I tend to gravitate towards materials which I know have some connection with the hand, so being made by hand, or, you know, being inspired by some form of heritage or tradition. And that in turn, that then affects the way that I then use materials. They become a lot less disposable, you know, and I've seen it also with my peers as well. When there's more of a story behind those materials, you're less likely just to dispose of them, throw them away. You know, maybe there's a chance that you're more likely to pass them on, or, you know, to archive them over time, or find some other use for that process as well, because processes are so connected to, especially traditional processes, they're connected really closely to like communities. So by protecting a technique, you're also protecting a group of people. So that's the type of thing that I'm interested in exploring through contemporary design. So I might, in my own work, use a process which can be seen as very contemporary, a bit experimental. Maybe there's no use for it in terms of like a mass appeal, but I would show my work maybe in an arts context to engage with people, to be able to start conversations with a wide range of different types of people, but try to pull out some of those stories or those experiences that are everyday experiences that you would find within like a fashion scenario. So I think for me, I do agree with some of the comments relating to trying to maintain the heritage, because once it's gone, then I feel like you have no real connection with that material, and you start to have almost like an unhealthy relationship with the objects around you.
Thank you very much. Wacy?
Hi again. So I have a little bit of a different view about this. I think heritage is important, but I do think that as African textile designers, we need to find a way to remain competitive and to remain relevant. And I think that we need to understand how to translate our traditional techniques into the appropriate technology. I truly believe in my practice that technology doesn't mean that it's not sustainable, because you do build clean technology. You can build machines that produce, you know, they mechanize the process, but they don't necessarily make it bad process. They don't make it polluted. They just make it easier. As I think Adejoke was saying, that she made most of her process and maintained some of it as a hand process. So I think there are ways, and we have to be clear that for it to be authentic, it can only be handmade, and by handmade, we don't move forward. We don't learn new ways of doing it because we're stuck in our ways. I think we need to adapt, bring in what works for us, but of course, maintaining what our tradition is. But I think the question that we ask all the time is, you know, if we had time to evolve the way that we do this, what would this technology look like today? Because our traditions are technology, right? There is a way that we do things. So what does it mean in 2020 to make Aso-Oki in a way that is sustainable, yet is, you know, that is relevant, yes? What materials can we bring in? What processes can we bring in? What can we learn that makes sense for our context? I think those are some of the questions that, and you know, I don't know anything about Aso-Oki specifically, but the kinds of textiles that I do, those are the questions that I ask myself all the time. How do you make sure that you remain relevant, maintain the traditions, yes, but also in a way evolve? And I think the idea of embedding stories into the work that we do is, in a way, trying to preserve that. So that's a little bit how I approach.
Oh yeah, that's really great. Because it's something I've always, struggled with. Like, how do you maintain that careful balance? So you don't want to lose the very essence of what makes it truly special. And I think some people have said luxury. Some people have used words like handmade. So how do you balance the process, but at the same time to be able to enhance competitiveness? Because let's not. And I do understand that maybe some things are always meant to be precious, and maybe you're not meant to sell like in volumes like that. But at the same time, if we want to empower those communities that we're talking about, that Tunde referred to, Emmy referred to, there's got to be some sort of competitiveness. But how do we enhance competitiveness and enhance commercialization in a way that doesn't necessarily take away, that doesn't, is not harmful to the environment, is not, exploitative of the people, and all of that. So how do we create that careful balance? Um, but at the same time, I also struggle a little bit because, sometimes it seems like because we're having all these conversations about heritage, craftsman, especially craftsmanship, it feels like we're saying that we're excluding, digital printing and all of those things from the conversation. So Banke, I want you to speak to this. Like, so do you sometimes feel that, when there's all this talk about sustainability and we're talking about materials or textiles that's sort of been, handmade, so to speak, or woven. How do you feel? How, does that, do you think it I don't know, do you think that it sort of excludes people like you and your work from the conversation? What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely feel like when people are having conversations about African design, African designers, they definitely want to hear this story about something that has been made like by hand, or they want to hear like a very romantic story about textiles being made. And then when you're like, actually, it's digital print, they're kind of like, oh, okay. But I think I think digital print is very relevant because we're still telling stories. With my prints always tell a story about something to do with Nigeria or Africa, and digital print is actually it's sustainable. There are some dyes that are not harmful, not so harmful to the environment. We use
Natural
cold.
dyes.
Yep, and then we don't use extremely hot water, extremely hot water, and also we can also like Busola was talking about, seeing her grandmother's fabrics that were really, really detailed. We can also give tell these stories as well. So yeah, I think sometimes digital print is excluded, but I think what's great about having African designers designing digital textiles is different from Ankara, because Ankara is not designed by Africans, it's designed by the Dutch.
Exactly.
So it's still, it's still African textiles to me anyway. And I think it's still, so we have digital textiles, which is easier to produce, but at the same time, I'm really, really keen to also support weavers, and whether it's, Emmy and Tunde can tell us more, and Adejoke can also tell us more on how we can all support weavers, and because I guess their craft is suffering, especially during coronavirus. Is there a way, not just the designers, just general people of the public, how can we all support these people? Is there like a fund? Is there something that we can do to collaborate, to support? Because people are,
maybe a product. Maybe a
yeah,
product that, maybe everyone design one product this season using
exactly,
woven material. Maybe
yeah,
even if it's just one product, one thing, one item this season for sale that would,
yeah.
empower all the communities dotted around. I
That's
think
a
that would
really
be
nice
cool.
idea.
I
That's
mean,
a really nice idea.
yeah, because I'm part of a group, and I think they're thinking about, but in a completely different context. They're thinking they want to use it to raise money, and once you have money, then you can begin to support designers who really need it. But now bringing this into community, it would be great to also suggest in that group that maybe it should be like a woven, something that's from a woven fabric. So maybe a bag. I mean, I'd love to see your bag, like, you know, your bags, Banke, like from, I mean, your take on Ashoke or Akwete or something woven. And I'm already obsessed with what Adejoke is doing with, you know, pure water, right? Sachets. You know, she does, I mean, she weaves all sorts of things and makes them into pouches, bags. It's really incredible. Like, you know, when you see it, except she tells you, you see the texture and you're wondering, what is this and what's it made from? So it would be great to, yes, I mean, I think this could be an interesting follow on from this conversation. Like, how can we all support, you know, those communities, or, you know, either from Eastern Nigeria or maybe Tunde's community of weavers, Adejoke and her company, and I don't know, Yemi will be able to advise in terms of material. Like,
ask Tunde about. You said that you mentioned that there are other products that you use for your materials. Did I hear correct?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Is it correct that you said that you create other products from your materials? So what type of products?
Shoes, bags. Recently we started making some blankets, trying different method of weaving, you know, just so the weaving is more, it's lighter and, you know, softer. So we started creating some blankets with that. And yeah, they came out really good. So that's like a step towards creating more softer fabric for garments for us. So yeah.
Is there like, I know we had that in terms of weaving, I know there's like, you go to little, like, you can go to, when you find weavers, they're always in little communities, but is there a way to like create one bigger community in an area? So like have a factory of that, like have like a proper like building.
Like a hub.
Yes.
Oh yeah, so
to make them easily accessible.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So when I went to the East, I found out that there was a place like that, but I mean, it's extinct now. I mean, they also complained that people were not coming to maybe buy the products or get, you know, give them jobs. So most of the women were married like into other communities. So they took their loads to their husband's house. So everything went up. But I mean, I said last time when I was on the Lagos Fashion Week live, I said, you know, we're starting a project soon to bring together, a community of weavers that would help train that will help train younger generation, so that when they also pass out, the ones they've trained can carry on the craft. Thereby, we're preserving this craft and not letting it go into extinction.
And then, like, in terms of also weaving, I know with because I studied weave as well at university, so I know that. So there's a part where you have the threading of the loom, the thread, and Adejoke was talking about having just one color of the threads that are made in Nigeria. So is there a way to, so you have, can we not have, like, split it up into different departments? Can we not encourage some kind of business that specializes in selling threads? So instead of having to dye it yourself, you can go somewhere and there's someone who's selling them that has loads of
already dyed it.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Stuff like that.
I mean, with us, we don't dye them ourselves. So what we do, we buy them from, in large quantities. So we have like people who sell the yarns. So depending on the season, there's the softer one they call silk, and there's the heavier one they call cone. So we use cone for.
They're not Nigerian. They're not made in Nigeria, are they?
So I think that's what Adejoke is advocating for.
Yeah.
Adejoke is advocating for.
Can I explain that, please? Can I explain that?
Sure.
Okay. What he was talking about, there are different threads. We have metallic yarn, we have cotton, we have silk, we have rayon. So different kinds, all those ones actually made in China, from China. Those are the thread that we use here to make clothes. But this thread I'm talking about is actually the thread that it's very, if you put it on your skin, it's very cool on the body. And by the time you try and burn it, if you put fire on it and burn it, the flame that comes out of it is just very light ash color. Unlike those ones that he is talking about now, the China ones, if you burn it, it's like you are burning tire, like the dark flame that comes out of it. So what do we do with those light colors? Sometimes we don't dye them. We have some companies, some Adire companies in Nigeria that we weave those plain colors for, because it's a real cotton. So it helps them, it enables them to be able to work with it, with doing Adire, doing different colors of designs on it. And the uniqueness, the way it comes out, it's very, very nice. Unlike them buying fabric from China or from wherever. So it's like looking inwards and getting the local fabric, doing the local design on it. So unique, and it really, really comes out very good. Yes, that's what we them are made in Ogun State. Those threads are made in Ogun State, Nigeria.
So can we not? So whilst things are not so busy, can we not get the weavers to focus on making good quality thread? So when things do become more busy, you have all this thread that's already available.
Okay. What we do right now, I told you that we have a weaving company, right? So most of all these people that uses Ashoke to make shoes, bags, because we weave some
You can't go off now. I'm interested in that.
for some company in the US or in Germany, creating what then they send it to us.
You're hiding trade secrets.
Send it to us. It's their own design alone. Those kind of designs we don't put it on our sites because we want to put they're actually doing it from. So we weave it for them, we send it to them. So they use it to make different designs. It's a win-win for us. Everybody's happy. Anyway, so what we now do for this the kind of the weaving that they really want to really get, because sometimes when you explain to these weavers, some of them don't really understand what you want because of this mindset, the way they've been taught. Like some of them don't want to change. Some of them, their ideology, they just want to do it that way.
They become comfortable.
They are too comfortable where they are.
Yeah.
So they don't want to change anything.
And don't forget that the Ashwebi culture, culture in Nigeria is very
it's booming.
Yeah.
Very, it's only in recent times. Let's not forget that they can live and feed on that alone. So you designers going to them, I'm sure, was a waste of time. They
probably they told me that. Yes, you are very right. So what we now do is that some of all these organizations, they call us to come and train some of their staff. They buy the equipment from us. We have the weaving equipment where you can just put inside. We train them on how to do it, and we will be starting another training on Monday now for an organization. So that's the way that some of them have been able to like get their own design themselves, because there's some things that you have in your mind, like you really want to create, but you can actually do it by yourself because you are the one thinking it. If you explain to some people, they might not really get what you want, unlike you yourself. So that's the way they've been able to do so far. Yes.
That's amazing.
Guys, can I be excused? I have another engagement at 8.
Thank you so much, Tunde. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Bye, Tunde.
Nice connecting with you, Mr. Tunde.
Hi, thank you.
I have a question.
Okay. Bye-bye. Please go ahead.
I'll ask, I was wondering about, because from my perspective, I have my own practice, but then it crosses over into the education space as well. So I wondered how much access makers and designers, but maybe more so makers, how much access they have to new technology, or how much access in terms of like upskilling? Is that something that's accessible or something that's almost impossible?
No, I mean, I guess that's one of the other things we're going to talk about, innovation and industrialization. Innovation around here, please guys, correct me if I'm wrong. So I'm not saying we have a few people or a few designers who innovate with textiles, but I'm not quite sure that we have access to, if we're thinking about
synthetic fibers that's probably, I mean, made in a way that's not harmful, through a process that's not harmful at all. We don't have that around here yet, you know? So that's why most of the conversation here, that when you're talking about purpose, processes and all, most of it is based on craftsmanship and artisans, as opposed to technology, use of technology to be able to create things that, you know, although what Adejoke just said now is quite, you know, quite interesting, and I'd love to come and see it, to see how she's been able to incorporate elements of technology.
Frozen.
Technology, you know, to be able to make a bit more. Banke, Adebusola, are you aware of any? Oh my gosh, am I frozen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't hear what you said.
She's still frozen. She's, wow.
Oh, she's gone.
I guess maybe she wants to log in again or something.
Yeah, I guess so too.
I think that there's a desire to incorporate more technology and to combine it with traditional craft.
Yeah.
We have like silks made in Nigeria, like 100% silks.
Sorry?
Okay.
We have like 100% silks made in Nigeria. So I feel like we just have like a range of cottons rather than like if you go abroad, like I do most of my fabric sourcing abroad because we kind of limited here. So they have like a range of silks. They have like the printed silk, they have like the chiffon. I wonder if we have it here, if you know something that is in the works.
Then I believe in, like, until we're able to like do our own fabric ourselves, yeah, and you know that's when we can probably say that okay, these are the things that are probably made in Nigeria, even till thread, the fabric, you know, the sewing. I know that many people are really, especially designers, they are designing amazing things now, but we still need to really be able to like do our fabric ourselves. I believe that will really, really help us a lot, you know, so that we don't just start importing, because at the end of the day, we're still taking most of our money to that place, and some of them are expensive due to exchange rates. I believe that once we are able to like get it right, to be able to produce our own quality fabric here, then we can proudly say these are the things made in Nigeria.
So would you say it's important for us to start investing right from the beginning, like investing in the people who grow the cotton, like the farmers?
Exactly. Yeah.
It is possible. That's what the government is actually working on, that because there was this last year.
We've been anyway. I don't know. I think we've been hearing that the government is
no, it's going to work this time. No, it's going to work this time.
It's fine. It's fine.
I think maybe so. Instead of, I mean, yes, I do agree with Emmy in that I have been reading about this support for the farmers for a very long time.
Yeah.
So why don't we as individuals create like an interest group that supports cotton growing in Nigeria, or you know, maybe give, you know.
So okay, I'm going to make sure we add you, Adejoke. She has to come on that textile and garments group. So, textile group. Okay, I'm going to get the GT Textiles. They're going to add you to that group. So all of these things. So be quiet while you shake things up. So and ask them questions. What happened to the fund for farmers that was allocated like X number of years ago? And what happens to the fund for textile manufacturers?
Because I remember, like, even in 2000, every like couple of years they always release some fund to support the farmers, to support this part, and nothing has, in fact, all those factories have closed down. I remember when I was writing my dissertation, my dissertation was about the textile industry in Nigeria. So I went round the north, I went to Kaduna, I went to lots of different textiles industries, and they were textiles factories, and they were actually all closing down. All the workers were outside trying to get their final pay. Like, it was a mess. It was and since then it's even declined, and all these funds have been released. So I think maybe the funds have been allocated to sectors within the industry that have not really maybe known how to use it, or it just hasn't trickled down to the right people. So maybe if, as a private group, not maybe we can find a way to support the farmers, because without the cotton crop, like good quality cotton crop or good quality whatever we want to grow and whatever we want to make, it's not possible. It's because even if we're doing all this printing and stuff, we're still importing fabrics from Europe and China, which still makes it extremely expensive. It's actually cheaper to produce abroad.
Let me jump in. Let me jump in right quick and offer a little bit of perspective in terms of what's happening. So the textile industry cannot outgrow the industry or the ecosystem. So if they inject $100 billion today, right? In a year's time or 2 years' time, we're going to ask ourselves the same question: what happened to the fund? Because everything is connected, right? So if you're investing that much money, right, and we're thinking about how much, for example, we still don't, they're going to tell you that, oh, half of the money is gone to maybe trying to get stable source of electricity, or they're producing. Imagine how they're suffering now. Our textile industry is largely driven by Ashrebi culture as well. All the parties, that's all they do. Most of these textile manufacturing companies, most of them do that. And of course, uniforms for the army and, the paramilitaries or paramilitary. And that's what, the sort of fabrics that they produce on that scale, which is why cottage industries like that, like the ones we're talking about, weaving, or like yourselves, it's the vision should be how to really empower that process, so that you guys, I think you have a better chance at doing something, because you're still small and relatively small and nimble to be able to do a bit more. But they're so big, and their processes are so big, and the machines to even roll out, to do a run of, they can't do short runs. There's so much. So you find out that maybe when the government bails them out, they're actually using that bailout money to service debt, because at the end of the day, if it's not feeding into the industry, either for retail or for designers to use, it's only a matter of time before, it goes back to zero. So the challenge is, how do we create that balance between what's really needed? Like, for now, I don't really see designers relying on those textile manufacturers, because the runs, the quantity we need, or the quantity they need, is not really, what's the word? It's not as much, it's not worthwhile for them. So that's why they have to come to you. So the vision should be, how do we empower your process? How do we empower, empower your processes? How do we empower you to be able to service the designers? And when it comes to industrialization and taking it, to that sort of next level, we have to figure out a way to make sure everything works like a well-oiled machine. If not, even the farmers won't get paid. So there's even conversations around the quality of seeds. I've sat down in a meeting before where, the farmers, they're really passionate. They're passionate about it, because sometimes even the seeds are not good. So if you have bad seeds, of course, you're going to have bad harvest, So, and if you're not feeding directly into working textile mills, then you can't really produce on that level. So people like Arewa Textiles and Arewa Industries, they've done and invested so much money into this, and nothing is really happening. So everything has to be vertically integrated.
It would be nice to separate these things a little bit. For example, I still feel very passionate about this, like a thread shop. How come there isn't a thread shop where all the Ashoke weavers are going to buy their Ashoke? So someone is just specifically specializing in designing amazing different types of yarns, thick, thin, some are double ply. Like there's so many, that's such a huge industry on its own, just making threads. And then so you have the cotton, you have investing in the agriculture, then you have like just splitting up that woven sector. So Adejoke, you're not focused on making sure your threads are dyed the right color. You can just go to a shop and it's already there for you. So you're focused on something else. So I think that would lift a lot of pressure from you.
Yes.
I mean,
It will already be fine.
I personally feel like there's a lot of work to be done with our textile industry. Even like I can remember before I started my business, I did a lot of research into our industry and how I think 1970s, 80s, like the textile industry was really booming. And then even today, taking away infrastructure aspect of helping to build back the industry, we have like, I feel like as long as we continue to have issues with our power supply and all those like very, very little issues but are very significant, we're going to continue to suffer the whole increased cost of production.
Yeah.
Yes, like cost of production, I feel is a very huge factor. Yeah. And then even with what Banke is saying, it makes a lot of sense. But I also feel like once we start separating, you handle the thread, I'll handle this. Like maybe it might increase like cost of production. I don't know. I think also, and then, but then the one thing I really want to see is us like diversifying into other types of fabrics, not just cotton. I don't know, maybe something I have to look into or research into, not just cotton.
We've been talking about that. Wacy left us quite a, something that we should think about. And I think it goes back to what Yemi was saying about innovation. So how can we innovate around new materials and fibers? And I think that's the problem. That's the main problem here, that can be turned into yarn. Looking at waste from agriculture industry and other sources, there are people making banana leaf yarn, silk from orange peel. What should be our positioning as African makers in this value chain? So what should we do? So I guess that's something, that's food for thought. And I guess maybe a bit of research as we, start to look at how to round up the conversation is how do we do that? How do we innovate? If the sources that we currently have, yes, they're great, but not readily available. I know Bubu, for example, works with materials, interesting materials, I think from the bark of a tree bark, and she's not here. And there are other interesting things, but I guess it goes back to that conversation around what's the quantity, how long does it take, how many units can you produce at a time? So it's how to balance that whole creative process, the choice of material, and as well with commercialization. So, which is why it's important to draw that distinction between what each person is doing. And is it meant to be work that's done and just meant to be looked at as, wow, this is beautiful, and for it to evoke that deeper sense of meaning and purpose and connection, knowing that this is where that comes from. But then again, how are we going to be able to compete in the world? If that's what.
Yeah.
Okay. Like what Adebusola said, she was asking about like, is it just cutting or something? But I just feel like, let us just take it one step at a time. By the time we get the cutting right, I believe that things will start with time, will keep growing, because all these people that are doing this fabric that we buy abroad and everything, I believe that they didn't just come up with it in a day or in a month. Like it's just one step at a time. It's a gradual process. So I believe that if you're able to get the cutting right first, like Madam Banke said, that being in different colors that we can just go and pick up, then with time, I believe that they can come up with a technique or technology that will be able to like do a silky material, rayon, and different other yarn as well. So I think it will be all right. I think we should not just think about that silk first. Let us just even get the cotton right.
I think first of all, you can get lots of different types of cotton. So you can get cotton that is quite similar to silk. And I also think there's nothing wrong with specializing in one thing. Like, for example, everybody knows China for silk. And we all know that, we can be known in Nigeria for amazing cotton, which we have been in the past. So I think it's
a very good one.
Yeah, let's specialize in one thing and get that absolutely right. And if you have one company that's just specializing in thread, then they're going to be able to think about so many different types of thread. Like they wake up in the morning and all they think about is thread. What kind of thread am I going to make today? Is it thin thread, thick thread, black thread, white thread? That is what they're doing. So by the time you have that, then you have so much range to do so many different things. So I think it's really important to separate things. And maybe whilst the beaders, the weavers are not so busy, maybe they can start thinking of, making thread.
I also think,
you said this again.
I also think all of this goes back to education. Education and the lack of it in where we're from. If we probably had maybe great universities and, teaching all these things, then there would be access to design labs, experiment research. That is, the vacuum is so huge because we don't have that. So yes, it's okay to focus on cotton, but even the cotton, we don't even have, specialists that can help us modify, it's sometimes it's so disheartening. I think that to realize that we can't even cotton, we can't even innovate with that. So we're still stuck with, just it comes as one color. And I know because I visited, someone's factory, they have to bring it from Kano or Kaduna, they bring it to Lagos, it's just one color. That doll, you can't tell if it's gray or white or something. And then of course you have to dye, So I think it all goes back to education and having access to, people who can the same way we place a lot of emphasis on things is how do we educate people? How do we teach? How do we create specialists out of the process? Like Banke is saying, so we have people who are focused on every part of it.
I think everything, as you said, I completely agree. Education is everything because with an education, you have, you understand time limits, you understand time, I have a deadline, I've got to hand in my homework on time.
Yeah.
It builds up a person. And I think, with the educational system in Nigeria, we're struggling a little bit. So I think even, let's say, I think maybe even having a fund that supports basic education, or if all of us can do something for someone in school, I don't know, maybe we have a system where every fashion designer, fashion house must, we have to try and contribute to basic education. And so, when people are graduates, they kind of understand, they just understand a bit more. I think it really does start from school, from from secondary school. That's where it really starts, and then it goes on from there. So we need to.
So I think that would be that could also be curriculum based as well. Like if specialists like you and Yemi who can teach, who probably have that, how can we incorporate it into the curriculum either from secondary school, from that level, or even university? So we might not have proper fashion colleges, but can we create some sort of curriculum where this is for now at least, before the government, probably either invest in Yabatech and turn it into a state-of-the-art something, or we see maybe what the Bankers Committee will do with the National Theatre. Maybe it's going to incorporate, parts of this. But I think now I'm always about what are the low-hanging fruits. So like a fund would be great so that we can do all these amazing things. But in the absence of having that, what are the immediate, short-term solutions? Just like we said, oh, wow, to support the community now, if we cannot give them money or provide them with a fund, but people can maybe commit to designing one woven product this season to support that community. So can we get a group of like-minded people like yourselves, Banke, Yemi, educators in our midst, maybe come together to, I don't know, I'll be happy to explore who we need to speak to, maybe get into the curriculums, or maybe the education board, university, either the university level.
Textile scholarships.
Textile scholarship, that's what we had in mind of, doing later in the year, training one or two people to go work with these women, learn this craft, and then after the pass, we sort of employ them to maybe move to Lagos and start working for us. So we kind of bring them closer.
I think education is really key. The thing with education, it's long-term thinking, and it's accepting that you don't see the fruits of the labor immediately. It almost needs, it's like a different strand. There's like an urgency, obviously, to protect people now so they can sustain themselves, so they can feed themselves. But in a way, both strands cannot be ignored, because I think the education side of things is really important for the future of innovation of African textiles. I remember I did a residency years ago in Pakistan, and I visited an art school it was in Karachi, and they were working closely with different rural communities, so taking the craft skills, but bringing those artisans into the school. So they were directly teaching the students their skills, but also giving the students an appreciation for the labor intensive nature of those processes. So there was a link between thinking about contemporary processes, but then also thinking about how maybe you can marry the two things together. And I think, yeah, so investing in universities, but also maybe smaller spaces where those interactions can happen. And then in the future, hopefully, then that leads to some sort of innovation in terms of like material development. But I understand that there's also an urgency.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. We'll be more than happy to have that conversation to see what we can do. Like, we have a physical space that we've just put together to be able to do things like this that you're talking about. And we'll be more than happy to bring artisans or, I don't know, Banke. So I guess a conversation that can happen offline to see how we can maybe marry the ideas together and see what can come out of it, like, short term, long term, and, take it up from there. But if you ladies don't mind, especially I will find out from half the time, nothing is really happening in these groups. It's probably communication around, the ministries, oops. But, okay, so after the talk, so the groups are great, and it's a conversation worth exploring to see how we can inject a bit of more life into some of the work that's already happening.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good place to end it. Education, invest in the communities, and of course see what can be done in terms of either funding something, a project, scholarship, like Emmy's vision of bringing his artisans to Lagos, right? To be able to get definitely. So I think that's a good way to end it, as some sort of projects that can happen in the next 6 months or next 1 year as our own contribution
post-COVID.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, COVID.
What's
yes.
Post-COVID, yeah.
COVID. Yes.
I was reading an article, and it said, in Nigeria we had over 250 textile companies, but now we have like fewer than 30. So I kept wondering what happened to all of them. As I was reading, I found out that most of them, closed up due to most of them closed up due to high operating costs, lack of basic infrastructure, and these are like the little things that are supposed to be almost free. Talk about light, but in this part of the world, it's even with all designers, powering the studio 6 days a week, Monday to Saturday. By the time you check your number, to realize that everything is almost going back into production. But then again, you still need to keep the studio running and everything. So I don't know how to put it, but it's almost like a difficult task running all these things, but you know that, oh, you just have to keep doing this because you know that it's for a good cause. So yeah.
But do you think designers will embrace like a communal space instead of everybody owning their own studios? Do you think do you think that's something protective and guarded?
I think if it was me before I opened my studio, I would have been open to it, because then outsourcing was, you find out that outsourcing is even more expensive. But now that you have like everything in an enclosed space, you can monitor the production and everything. And there's a lot of competition here in Lagos. You see that everybody's trying to outdo, but like when you come, maybe a designer can have their own days. Maybe you come in on Mondays, you come in on Tuesdays, another designer comes, or maybe ours. So that would probably work. Yeah, for designers who don't have like their own space.
So that people don't feel that need to. I mean, the younger, not you biggies, the younger ones. You don't.
No, you told me about that in the Star House, for the Star House space. Yeah.
It's very important. That's the future, so that you can focus on being a designer.
Gives you exclusivity to you come in a day, and instead of going to the market where everyone probably see what you're trying to do, you have your own days to go there and produce your things. So I think that works. So.
Okay. Any other final thoughts? Adebusola, any final thoughts before we wrap up? You're muted.
I've listened to what everybody has to say. I'm just glad to know that the conversation doesn't stop here. There's still a lot to be done. And then I literally wrote down, what can I do, like on my own, with my own brand, like what can I do to empower and help the industry? Yes, so it's definitely something I'm going to start really thinking about.
Yeah, I think it's a collective charge, right? And hopefully something will come out of it, and we won't get too bogged down by the bureaucracy and
I think it's a good conversation to also take to the Made in Africa group. Is it the group you were talking about? Oh yes. Because I'm there, and I remember there was, I never joined one of the live sessions because I've always been busy, but I think it's a good conversation to take there and see what they have to say about it, and find a way to fix it.
Definitely. So it's part of the must-have conversations to be able to explore it. And I think that's one of the things that it's a networking group for now. And I think that's one of the things that they're trying to address, and it has some trying to tell Banke, Yemi, and Adebusola. So it has people, like creative people from different parts of the continent. It's still very small and still evolving, like what the goal is meant to be and what they're trying to do. But primarily, everyone's just focused on three key things: funding, education, and I guess with education comes innovation. So I think that's probably a good place to continue the conversation. And the textile one, also another group, the textile group. I think that's also important. Be able to open, things up from here. So any other last thoughts from anyone before I say thank you so much for joining us? Does anyone have anything else to say? Yeah, Debola, are we good? Can we sign out? Hello?
Okay. Thank you for having us.
Okay. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. It's been quite enlightening. I mean, for you all to take time out on Friday night after a busy, long, intense week in the middle of a pandemic, we don't take it for granted at all. Thank you so much. And I guess the conversation continues like we've all agreed. And please send me a message if you think there's something else, or follow up, follow on, and then we can take it up from there. But thank you, and have a lovely weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet
you. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.